All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we've got to talk about a pretty harsh truth. The financial rulebook our parents lived by, it's basically a recipe for disaster in today's economy. So let's get into it and break down exactly why trying to be normal is going to keep you broke. So let's just kick things off with a bombshell, shall we? Every single piece of financial advice you've ever gotten, save 10%, make a budget, don't buy that coffee, it's all based on an economy that just flat out doesn't exist anymore. It's just noise. It's completely useless in the world we're actually living in. And this isn't just you feeling like you're falling behind. The rules have genuinely, fundamentally changed. We're about to dive into the hard numbers that prove it. The old math for achieving a normal middle-class life, it's officially broken. And this is the absolute key to everything. This isn't about your spending habits. You are not bad with money. The problem is the game itself is rigged. You cannot budget your way out of a structural crisis. You're trying to win on a board where the rules were set against you from the very start. I mean, just look at this. It's just wild. Back in 1992, your parents might have snagged a starter home for, say, 85 grand. Today, that same house is $420,000. Home prices have just exploded. But your salary? Maybe it's doubled what they made if you're lucky. The math just doesn't work. It's impossible. So that leads us straight into what we're calling the normal financial trap. We're all programmed to believe we need to buy a house and a nice, reliable car, but these two cornerstones of the so-called American dream, they've now become the fastest way to financially ruin yourself. I mean, this chart right here says it all, doesn't it? The entire housing crisis in one picture. A person with a middle-class income can only afford about 21% of the homes for sale. Just 1/5 of them. And get this, before the pandemic, that number was 50%. So the market didn't just get a little tougher. For most people, it completely collapsed. Okay, so if housing is a trap you fall into, cars are where people are literally lining up to commit financial suicide. The new normal is taking on a car payment that feels like a second mortgage, except it's for something that loses a huge chunk of its value the second you drive it away. Okay, get ready for this first number. $737. That is the average monthly payment for a new car. Not a fancy luxury car, the average one. Just stop and think about that. That's an enormous anchor dragging down your ability to build any kind of wealth. And just when you thought that was insane, hold on, it gets so much worse. For a new truck, which, are wildly popular, the average payment blows up to $1,200 a month. This is where the idea of normal just becomes completely unglued from financial reality. Okay, let's zoom out and look at the real damage here. Over the life of a pretty standard 7-year loan, that new truck costs you $130,000. And when it's all said and done, you own something that's worth, maybe 15 grand? It's a catastrophic financial loss that we've all been tricked into thinking is a normal purchase. So, okay, that's the bad news. How in the world do you escape this trap? Well, the first step isn't about becoming a millionaire. It's about hitting a really critical psychological turning point, a point where you finally stop playing defense with your money and you start playing offense with your life. You have to understand the difference that a $20,000 buffer makes. It's not just about the money. It's profound. Before you have it, every choice you make is rooted in fear. I have to take this job. I can't risk asking for more money. But once you hit that number, your entire mindset flips. It becomes about opportunity. You have options. You have leverage. You can actually afford to take a smart risk. It completely changes the entire trajectory of your life. All right, you ready? Let's get into the actual blueprint, the solution. And I'm telling you right now, this is going to go against almost every piece of traditional advice you've ever heard. Why? Because that advice was for an economy that's dead and gone. Here's the best way to think about it. If you're investing while you have high interest debt, like a credit card sitting at 22%, you are fighting a battle you will never, ever win. You're basically trying to fill a bucket that has a giant hole in the bottom and then wondering why it's always empty. This is your new financial order of operations, and you have to do it in this exact order. No skipping ahead. Step 1, get your full employer 401k match. It's literally free money. Don't leave it on the table. Step 2, you have to destroy all of your high-interest debt. Paying off that 22% credit card, that's a guaranteed 22% return on your money. Not even the best investors in the world can guarantee that. Step 3, build that $20,000 buffer. That's you buying your freedom. And only then, once the leaks are plugged, do you start investing everything else. That's when you start the engine.
Okay, now for what is, honestly, the hardest part of all of this. Following this path, it has a social cost. It means you're almost definitely going to look poorer than your friends, your family, your coworkers, who are all just financing a cool-looking lifestyle with a mountain of debt. This part is an emotional battle.
So you have to completely reframe what's happening. What they see is not what's actually going on. They see a 35-year-old with a roommate, but what's really happening is you're saving an extra 10 grand a year. They see you driving a beat-up 2018 Civic, but the reality is you're quietly building a massive nest egg. They might think, oh, you're going backwards, but what you're really doing is buying back your future while they're busy selling theirs. And this right here is where all that quiet, disciplined work starts to pay off in a huge way. Because after you get through that initial grind, and it is a grind, something absolutely incredible starts to happen. Your wealth, it starts to build its own momentum. This is the beautiful, unstoppable magic of compounding. That first $100,000? Yeah, that's the absolute hardest. It might take you a decade of grinding to get there. But the next 100,000? That only takes 5 years. And the third only takes 4. Before you know it, you're adding 100 grand to your net worth every couple years. That giant boulder you were pushing uphill, it's now rolling down the other side and nothing can stop it. So that brings us to the real question, right? The final, most important question of all. Why? Why do all of this? What's the point of having the roommate and driving the old car and skipping the fancy stuff? What are we actually buying with all this sacrifice? Because the ultimate goal, it's not a fancy car, it's not a big house, it's something so much more valuable. It's called walking away money. Real wealth is the ability to say no. It's the power to say no to a terrible boss, a job that's crushing your soul, or a bad situation you feel stuck in. Success isn't a status symbol. It's waking up every single morning knowing that even if the whole world goes sideways today, you're gonna be fine. That is freedom. Everything else is just an expensive decoration.